Thank you very much, everybody. Well, we were told that we have about 10 minutes to talk about Trailblazers and everything we've been up to over the last year, and I personally don't think 10 minutes is long enough, but we will do our best. So my name's Tanvi Vyas, and as Bill said earlier, I'm joined by Mathy, who's our East Midlands Trailblazers ambassador, and I'm going to give you a little bit of information about what we do. So basically the Trailblazers, as some of you may know, was launched back in 2008, and actually now we have over 500 young disabled people across the UK campaigning on social injustices. A lot of the time the people have got neuromuscular conditions, but it isn't necessarily specific to people with neuromuscular conditions, because some of the campaigns we've done so far are related to kind of experiencing everyday life, really. So examples of some of the issues we've faced and acknowledged include higher education, employment, public transport, access to sport and leisure facilities too, which Mathy's going to go into a bit more detail about that. And something that we really want to do is highlight social injustice, but also look at positive changes and look at constructive and practical recommendations to make sure that we can have as good an experience as our non-disabled peers, really. And in the last year, we've worked together with the Department for Transport, the Minister for Disabled People, and also we're on various steering groups. So with cinema circuits like Odeon, Cineworld, and View, the Access to Airlines campaign, which includes airlines such as Monarch, British Airways, Virgin, and many of the big airlines as well. So we really want to work together with the key players to make sure that the differences and difficulties are acknowledged and we improve issues for everybody too. Something else which is really crucial is our work experience project, which we've recently launched in our London offices. And this is really unique in a way because we're giving young disabled people the opportunity to work in our head office, but in various different teams. So not everybody wants to get involved in campaigning. And the way that this work experience is, it's very much tailored to the individual. So it's quite flexible. You can come in various different days of the week, but also you can develop different skills and you're given lots of opportunities and often thrown in at the deep end, but really do get to experience things on a realistic level. I'm going to hand over to Mathy now, who's going to give you a lot more detail about your own experiences.
Yeah. Okay, so as Tanvi said, I'm the Trailblazers Regional Ambassador for the East Midlands, though I study in Sheffield as well, so I kind of cover that area too. I have a congenital myopathy, which is a muscle weakness I've had since birth. It affects my movements. I can't run, walk very fast, climb stairs, jump. I can't jump stairs either. I've never really had any disabled friends. I've grown up very much in the able-bodied world. Because of this, I've tried to not let my disability stop me, but there's obviously some things I can't do. The reason I got involved in Trailblazers is quite an interesting story. When I first heard about them in the summer of 2009, I just finished my first year of university and I'd had a pretty miserable time because of problems I was having with my disability, particularly difficulties I was having with my accommodation and independent living. I was given the room in a university accommodation on the top floor of a building with no lift, which obviously with my disability was not ideal. After a semester, I decided to move back home. That was a major blow for me personally because I was looking forward to university being a time when I can start to live more independently, and I became really withdrawn from university life. In an effort to boost my spirits, my mum found an article about Trailblazers in one of her medical journals, and she'd figured I might like to get involved. Before this point, I'd never really known any other disabled people that I could talk about disability-related issues. And we both thought that working with Trailblazers would provide me with an opportunity to get to know other disabled people and while campaigning on issues that affect my everyday life. Since joining Trailblazers in 2009, I've been involved in lots of different campaigns and events. My experiences have gone on towards many of our investigations into access. I've been interviewed in the press, and I've also attended all-party parliamentary group meetings in Westminster. I've also been more directly involved with some of the Trailblazers campaigns. I was able to write my university final year dissertation in collaboration with Trailblazers, which focused on disabled people and housing. This particular investigation had a lot of personal significance for me because of my experiences at university. I created and led the entire housing investigation campaign from scratch, from the creation of surveys and questions to pulling together Trailblazers' experiences and writing up the final report. The report was, oh, that's the wrong one. That one. The report was launched and discussed in Parliament in a meeting that was also attended by estate agents, letting agents, and the local government association. The launch of the report also received lots of publicity, being featured in The Guardian and on Channel 4 News. and my work was recognised by NBC and I received the special recognition award at last year's conference. More recently, I've also been heavily involved with providing my experiences for and media coverage of 2 of our latest national reports. This one. In June of this past summer, I provided the opening speech for the APPG meeting looking into access to grassroots sports. Here I was able to talk about my own experiences and be involved in very fruitful discussions about access to sports clubs and gyms. I also appeared several times on various BBC radio shows in that week in order to discuss the report. Even more recently, as in just over 1 week ago, I was also given the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to appear on BBC Breakfast and discuss the findings of the Trailblazers report into access to higher education and my own negative experiences. Securing media coverage of campaigns and arguments is so important if we want people to understand what we want to change. By presenting our reports and experiences on national media platforms such as newspapers, radio and television, Trailblazers aims to raise awareness of issues related to access so that these issues can be brought to the forefront of people's minds and discussed and hopefully bring about meaningful change. Since the last conference, Trailblazers has been able to bring about even more change. As part of our work with the APPG, we've been invited to work with several steering groups and select committees in Parliament, covering many different issues. For example, we've joined forces with MPs in Parliament to question airlines, the Civil Aviation Authority, and aircraft designers like Monarch, British Airways and Virgin at the launch of our Up in the Air report on accessible air travel. This meeting led to the creation of a steering group that works to improve accessibility to air travel. Trailblazers were also involved in a cinema steering group, and we've been involved in giving oral evidence at the Transport Select Committee inquiry into accessibility, which looks into the effectiveness of legislation related to transport for disabled people. This year's investigation into access to live music also achieved widespread media coverage, as we were featured in The Guardian, The Independent, BBC Online coverage, and in the music magazines NME and Kerrang. Another one of Trailblazers' major successes this year was our grassroots sports campaigns and report called Game On. We were able to meet with the Minister for Disabled People, Esther McVeigh, and representatives of clubs and sports organisations like David Lloyd Leisure, the English Federation of Disability Sport, and Boccia England. Recommendations coming out of this meeting included consulting with sports industry organisations like UK Active. More recently, we've also gained the support of Esther McVeigh with our Access to Higher Education report, and we hope to work closely with her in the future to address access to university and improve the situation for young disabled people. That's her. So you've heard my experiences with Trailblazers, but how can other young people get involved? Well, for a start, we organise and run regional meetings all across the nation. There are 12 regional groups that meet a few times over the year. At these meetings, young disabled people have a chance to meet like-minded people, discuss matters of interest and problems that we might be facing as a result of our disabilities, and take part in activities we might not have had the chance to try before. For example, we've had guest speakers come in to help us with our campaigning skills. As well as these meetings, as a national campaigning network, we aim to identify issues, explain why situations need to change, and offer solutions to decision makers and those with vested interests standing against us. Trailblazers can act as undercover reporters, identifying the most accessible and inaccessible places across the nation and reporting back to us so that we can highlight these issues that arise. The evidence that Trailblazers contribute, their experiences and opinions about what they think needs to change in society for young disabled people to be fully empowered and achieve equality in service, all goes towards our investigation, which form our Inclusion Now series of reports. We write these reports and then use them to influence decision makers and share our knowledge with the rest of society. I think some of the reports are on our stand out in the hall as well. Being a Trailblazer can also give you the opportunity to get political. We're regularly involved with parliamentary events such as the APPG. MPs and peers can now question decision makers in the relevant fields and help to shape future policies. And the APPG meetings give us the chance to lobby at the House of Commons, influence key debates and be part of the decision-making process. The APPG also launched an inquiry to examine the social difficulties faced by young disabled people when leading active and fully independent lives. As Tanvi mentioned earlier, Trailblazers is also very keen on encouraging young people to develop their own skills through valuable work experience and volunteering placements in the MDC offices. I had the opportunity to spend a couple of days in the London offices last year during my final year of university. And as well as working on the housing investigation during my time there, I also helped to write press releases and attend meetings with local government officials. If you're keen to get involved with Trailblazers immediately, we'll be having our own steering group meeting from 2:30 to 3:30, about the same time as the workshops on the balcony. So do come and join us for that. Being a Trailblazer has been such a rewarding experience for me personally. Not only have I been able to influence government decisions made about issues that affect my everyday life, but I've had numerous media opportunities to talk about the work that I've done. I've made some great friends and gained some valuable skills. On one level, the Trailblazers investigations and reports have had a direct impact on my life. After my work with the housing investigation, for example, I managed to move out of my family home into university accommodation, and I am now living fairly independently for my postgrad. And again, after my appearance on national television for the Higher Education Report, I've been approached by several staff members of my university who are keen to help make some changes within the university to ensure that the problems I had as an undergrad don't happen again for someone else. On a personal level, the work I've done with Trailblazers has given me so much more confidence in myself as a disabled person. I no longer think of my disability as something that hinders me and makes me different in a bad way, but I have learned to use my experiences to highlight what I think needs to be changed in society, and I have Trailblazers to thank for that. Thank you.